Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And there was silence. Good morning, folks. I'm here. Okay, just a little humor there. We'll start off with the humor. As my best friend, Ron Swain, who we lost this past year, would say, Likis, you have a little humor, darn little, you know. But he could be rude. Do you have friends like that? I mean, he could be so blatantly, in your face, for like, I don't know, 9 months. I talked about buying this new Jag. This was back in 2012. And so one day I walk in there and he said, well, did you get your new car yet? And I said, well, no, I'm still thinking about it. And he went, "Bawk, bawk, 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 bawk," like a chicken. And he, and then he handed me a T-shirt. So I have a Jaguar T-shirt and a license plate before I ever had the car. That was just his way of saying, hey, either you're going to do it or you're not, but quit fooling around and do something. So how does that relate to cars? Well, either you're going to take care of your car or you're going to drive it till it takes you into a service shop. And you do not want that to happen. So stay tuned, and I'll share with you information that you can't get anywhere else. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you this morning by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Be sure to prepare for your summer road trips before you head out. Visit an O'Reilly Auto Parts store. Simple preventive maintenance before you hit the road will ensure a safe journey during the summer months ahead. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Your calls at 888 Car Clinic when I come back.
Out in the field, it takes hard work and a little luck to bring a good crop to harvest. Back at the house, it doesn't take luck to keep my truck and gas-powered equipment running smoothly. I use Sta-Bil 360 ethanol treatment to protect my engines against gum, varnish, and corrosion. Gasoline with ethanol can go bad in as little as 30 days. Sta-Bil 360 keeps fuel lasting longer, saving me time and money year-round. America's most trusted ethanol treatment. Sta-Bil 360 won't give up when your fuel gives out.
Entertainment and GPS systems, heated seats, backup cameras, and start-stop technology. Just a few of the electrical demands we put on today's vehicles. AGM, or absorbent glass mat batteries, are up to the challenge. They're precision engineered to offer ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. Short-distance driving means your battery is not fully recharging. AGM batteries are more efficient than traditional flooded batteries when partially charged. They consume less power from the alternator. AGM, the better battery for today's vehicles. Learn more at autobatteries.com. In the service bay this week, a local handyman 16 Toyota Tacoma. He noted his vehicle was making a rattling sound from the engine when he started it cold. The sound also would sometimes happen when the engine was warm. After checking the engine oil level, we noticed the truck recently had an oil and filter change. So we installed a mechanical oil pressure gauge to verify that we had the proper readings. The oil pressure was within specifications, but a little erratic. The last service facility used a suspect filter, so we installed a new Omnicraft oil filter with the correct anti-drainback valve and quality filter media. Turns out this solved the problem. No more noise at startup. Folks, with today's complex vehicles, not every part works or works well. Quality, fit, and function is a must in my shop. Approved and backed by Ford Motor Company for most non-Ford and non-Lincoln vehicles, Omnicraft quality filters will help ensure vehicle reliability and longevity. Learn more about Omnicraft quality filters and other Omnicraft parts at OmnicraftAutoparts.com. Omnicraft Auto Parts, backed by Ford.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, loaded, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get this show started. Hannah will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546 and put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. A little later this hour, we're going to hear from a gentleman from Gold Eagle, and Gold Eagle is the maker of Stable. And I want to welcome Stable, welcome Stable back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We were partners years ago, as I remember, and ironically, I've used a Stable product, and I have it in my prized possession, my Porsche, which is a classic 1980 model. Let me share an interesting story with you about how to store a car. There are certain things that you can do and certain things that you shouldn't do. So if you've got an automobile, and some of these tips depend on where you live. For example, our headquarters and our studio is in Florida. So it's hot and it's humid here. So if you put a car in your garage without humidity control, now this is just and my classic car is just outside our studio here, inside a garage. And that garage, of course, is open to the atmosphere, and so it's as well. Other than sunlight, it's just like being outside because it's not heated or cool garage. So the car gets hot and it gets cold, but it doesn't in the sun. So the paint, as beautiful it was when we painted it in 2004, December 2004, we finished the automobile, and I've driven that car probably 1,500 miles since 2004. That's right. And I do not start that car every week, because if I started that car every week, I would cause damage. So if you've got an automobile, or let's say that you're in the military and you're going to be, you're going overseas, and you ask a loved one or a friend to come over and start your car, every other week or every week and keep it up, you're doing the wrong thing. Number one, if you start an automobile that is stored and do not run that vehicle for at least 25 minutes, then you're causing damage. Why? Because every internal combustion engine that fires, when you fire it up after an overnight stand or a month stand, or after it cools down, okay, everything's all normal ambient temperature. After that, then it creates condensation in the oil pan and in the engine's internals. That condensation then mixes with the oil. Well, oil and water don't mix, so it causes rust and corrosion. Unless you run the engine up to operating temperature, which then boils out and evaporates whatever condensation was in it. So whether you drive, and this is also true for short distance, and not short distance driving, not for I'm mixing stories here, but not for storing a car. If you drive a regular car on a regular use on every day, but your drive is less than 15 minutes to work, you're building condensation in the crankcase. So that's one reason you should change oil regularly, and that's one reason that short trips are called severe driving. So if anybody says, well, you look in the owner's manual, it said change the oil XXX, and for severe driving, change it sooner. And you say, well, I'm not an aggressive driver. Nothing to do with being aggressive. Severe means the circumstances and the environmental conditions in which you drive your car. So if you drive short distances so that the engine, now even if the temperature gauge reaches operating normal, which mine does, 1.5 miles from my house, that doesn't mean the oil is hot. if you put a gallon of oil, and my car holds more than a gallon, my car holds 2 gallons. It holds 8 quarts of oil. So if you put a gallon of cooking oil on the stove at room temperature, let's say it's 75 degrees, 70 degrees, and you turn the gas burner on, it's wide open, and you got this gallon of oil, and you come back in 5 minutes, you can still put your finger in the oil. It may take as long as, gosh, I don't know. What's your guess, Jonathan? In fact, Jonathan's our producer today, so welcome to the board. So, Jonathan, what would be your guess as to how long, if you took a gallon of cooking oil and put it on the stove and turned the stove as hot as possible on the biggest burner before it would reach 200 degrees? Well, I don't know if it would take a couple of hours. I would say, but I would say it would take no less than 20 minutes to bring it up to, to 220 degrees. Why 220? Well, 212 actually, because you want to get it up to boil the water out. So your oil doesn't, it takes a long time to heat up. And then when you turn your car off, you say, well, gosh, I drove 30 minutes and I'm going to turn the car off. It also takes that oil a long time to cool down. It doesn't, like your engine, start, run, stop, start, run, stop. In driving, go, stop, go, stop. Those are decisive, instantaneous actions. When you stop and when you go. When your engine heats up, it heats up slowly and comes up. It's called a gradient curve. It's not a straight tangent, a straight inline process. All this means that, and we're talking about stable, but all this means that the humidity that accumulates in the oil of your car causes damage. And over the long term, it causes damage. And especially, like for me, in my Porsche that I don't drive, it causes such condensation. Now, folks, this is an air-cooled engine, so there's no water in the crankcase or in the engine block. But years ago, when I first finished the car, I used to crank it up every week or two, but always, I'm going to crank it up every 2 weeks. Now, I know this stuff, right? I mean, this is only 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I finished the car. So I know this stuff. Well, lo and behold, I would check the oil, and when I pull the oil cap off, and this car has a dry sump, so there's no oil in the pan. It has a sump. It has a tank. And it's like an airplane engine or a race car, and it's a Porsche 911 air-cooled engine. So I would take the cap off the tank, and the cap would have droplets of water, and then it would rust, because that's what water does. It oxidizes and rusts. So I would order a new cap, and I would make sure I ordered the Bosch or the Porsche, cap. It says Porsche on the cap, because it's a classic car, and I want to keep its virginity. I want to make sure that car is as near a Porsche as possible, because it's worth a lot of money now. It's worth more money than it was this time last year, and that's why I have I'll plug Grundy Insurance, because as my car grows in value, then Grundy, every year I can visit with Grundy, and they will increase the stated value. And by the way, Grundy's the only classic car insurance company, or the only insurance company, period, that has a agreed to value of the automobile, and that doesn't change unless you revisit and you want to increase it. For instance, this year I spent $2,000 to upgrade the air conditioner system on my car. I put a new evaporator core, but I didn't use the Porsche. In this case, I used an aftermarket Griffith, which is the state of the art, because the old original Porsche was a 1980 model, and they don't do things the way this is a mechanical device. So, having said all that, I would replace the oil cap. I replace the oil cap every couple of years. And after the third oil cap, I said, well, there's something wrong here. This doesn't make sense. And then I realized what I was doing wrong. So I want you to realize, if you have a car that you want to start, two things, and the only thing you really have to know is, well, three things really. You need to crack the windows, because if you leave the windows up, the humidity will turn the upholstery yellow, because the moisture gets inside on a cool night, and it heats up, and that same moisture will condense and it will mildew the interior, and that happens. So you need to clean the interior, occasionally. And you don't need to coat it with anything shiny or anything. Just use a regular interior detailer. I use Meguiar's in this particular case, which I think all they put in that stuff is water and alcohol and something to smell good. Doesn't matter, because you spray it and it leaves no residue, and it leaves it like it's supposed to look, leather. Not shiny, not greasy, none of that stuff. So anyway, that's what I do. And now, back to the engine. When I start my car, I start it, and I'll start it and let it run no less than 30 minutes. 15, 20, 30 minutes actually, and I'll drive it not very far, because I don't want to take the chance of somebody running into me, because I can't fix this car if I do that. But I do use on my car the same product that I share with you would keep its battery hot, because every month you're going to lose 25% of the battery charge. So at the end of several months, your battery's going to be dead, or the car's going to go and then it might start. But I don't want it to drag. I want it to go and come to life, because that's how the engine's lubricated. And when I come back, I'll tell you about the Optima Digital 400 charger that I use and how great it works on my car. Your calls when I come back. If you're working on a repair project around the house or in a garage, forget about ordinary glue. I use JB Weld epoxy products at home, here in my shop, and also in our car clinic studio. JB Weld is the brand pros and DIYers have trusted for more than 50 years. JB Weld, world's strongest bond. Pick up your JB Weld at any Home Depot, Lowe's, AutoZone, Walmart, Amazon, and our partner, O'Reilly Auto Parts. For more details, log on to jbweld.com. Repairing a coolant leak can be costly, and it typically happens to older vehicles that may not be worth the expensive fix. K-Seal is an alternative, a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. K-Seal's available at nationwide parts stores like O'Reilly Auto Parts. Learn more at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, a 2012 Jeep Liberty came in the shop with an oil leak, a horn that sometimes blew in the middle of the night, and a strange creaking noise driving away in the mornings. After multiple road tests and inspections, we determined the Jeep needed an oil pan gasket and left front CV axle assembly. We discussed the cost and options with the owner, then called our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional for new parts. It was strange this car's axle made noise when it was cold. Something most often would be an exhaust leak or motor mount creak. A new oil pan gasket and axle assembly later, and no more leaks or axle noise. Vehicle quiet, owner back on the road. Another great reason why our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, if we could only catch that horn. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your hosts, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back. And so I was speaking before the break about stabilize your fuel for vehicles that aren't driven regularly, or in my case, not only the little Porsche that is my my love, but also our generator that we use for our studio in case we lose our power. We have a backup generator, and it just sits there. I mean, and we want it to just sit there because we don't want to have the storm or the Ivan hurricane that we had in 2004. So the bottom line is we use a stable. But back to starting an automobile, if you're not going to drive an automobile, you should crank it once a month. The problem is keeping the battery alive because automobiles have natural parasitic draw. So what I use is, as I was saying, I use an Optima Digital 400 charger maintainer. Now wait now, is it a charger or is it a maintainer? It's both. And it's so for your marine or your motorcycle or an AGM battery, even AGM, the Optima charger is the high performance maintainer and the battery charger that automatically maximizes the battery life. And here's what you do. Of course, you hook up red to red and black to black, negative to positive. I mean, negative to negative and positive to positive. And then you push the button, and it tells you the precondition of the battery. So if my car's been sitting for a month, let's say, and I put the Optima Digital Charger 400 charger on it, and I push the test button, it will go through a series of tests, and it will show me the condition of that battery. Now, why would I do that? Well, number one, I'd like to know and what state of charge it is, because if I do this and I've got a perfectly good battery, I thought, and it's down to 8 volts instead of 12, then it's in poor condition, then I know I have more of a drain on that battery than I think, and than I figured, than I thought. And so this is a way, and other chargers and battery maintainers don't do that, but the digital does, the Optima 400 digital. Anyway, so as I was saying, I push the button. Then now the unit is so smart, there's another button that you push and it recognizes what kind of battery's in the car. So if I've got an AGM battery, which I do, or a regular flooded battery, which is not as good, that's what's in your car more than likely, it will recognize which type battery, and it will specifically charge that battery according to its needs. And so what I really like about the Optima Digital 400 is you push a button and there's a backlit. And the backlit, the display doesn't have to be lit all the time, except when you would like to read what's going on. And it's so fun to watch because I can come back the next day, and even though the tank won't be full, it's got it's got like a fuel tank. It's got 4 lines and four lights, and finally it's got the 5th light that says charged. And I'll look at it, and maybe the 2/3 or the 3/4 lights. It's got 4 lights, 3/4 lights on. And then I'll push the backlit, and sure enough, the voltage will be up to like 12.2, and the charge rate will have come down from 4.2 amps to 0.5 amp. And then it'll come down once once the battery is charged 100%, the charge rate goes away, and it'll be 0.01 amp. Which means that all things are level. I'm keeping this battery level. I'm keeping this battery as new. And that's what I really like about this vehicle. Now, about the charge unit. And then finally, it goes into the maintainer mode, which means that it's no longer charging. It's just riding along and making sure that the battery in my car is ready to go when I'm ready to go. So you can find out more. It's a unit that is an Optima brand, but it's the Optima brand parent company is Clarios, Clarios. You should check out Clarios. And just as an FYI, 1 in every 3 batteries is a Clarios in the world. 1 in 3 cars has a Clarios battery, different brands, but Clarios parent company in the world. Unbelievable. It's just really cool. And as a result, when I get ready to drive my automobile, it's ready to go. And the fuel system, I have stable in it, and the gasoline, and I tick on my calendar I'll make a note about my gasoline. And I see that Matt Bannock is on the line, and he is our guest today, calling in from Gold Eagle. So I want to welcome the Senior Director of Marketing at I see that also Joey's on the phone, but let's go to Matt Bannock, who is the Senior Marketing Director at Gold Eagle. Matt, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Let's talk about fuel. I'd like for you to share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers how long fuel stays fresh and why does it go bad?
So most of the gas you buy today is 10% ethanol gas, so E10 gas. It's over 98% of the gas in the United States, and that has a shelf life of about 30 days, depending on the quality of fuel and how quick it gets from the refinery to your gas station. So it goes bad just because most people don't realize that gas is consumable. It's kind of like milk. I mean, everyone knows when milk goes bad. They know what it smells like. They know what it looks like, but not everyone knows what bad gasoline smells like or how long that takes.
Wow, that's a great analogy. Yeah. Well, what happened, Matt, when fuel does go bad?
Most importantly, it starts to darken up. It starts to get gummy deposits in it. It starts to everyone who's dealt with bad gas before, it starts to turn to varnish, so it gets thicker. It loses its light ends or its flammability. And so when you run that through your gas or your fuel system, that's when you're going to clog up needle valves and fuel injectors and all the different parts of your fuel injection system or your carburetor on your car, boat, small engine.
Wow. So are there different fuel-related issues with 2-cycle versus 4-cycle engines?
They have the same issues. I mean, they both go bad. They both have a shelf life. The bigger issue with 2-strokes is that ethanol attracts water. It tends to bring more water into the fuel system. So obviously, a 2-stroke, your oil is in your gas, so you really don't want water involved in your 2-stroke if you can avoid it. But other than that, they're more or less the same issues.
On the Car Clinic Hotline, folks, with us now is Matt Bannock, the Senior Director of Marketing at Gold Eagle Company. Matt, how do fuel stabilizers and ethanol treatments work, and are they really necessary for today's modern fuel systems?
So it's somewhat different. Ethanol treatments and fuel stabilizers. So our original product, the red one that hopefully everyone's seen, Stable Storage, it's a fuel stabilizer, so it keeps fuel fresh for at least 2 years. So it prevents gum and varnish. It keeps the fuel fresh. It's an antioxidant. So you could think of it kind of like vitamin E for your fuel system. It's sacrificial and it protects your fuel from the air. Ethanol treatments are a little bit newer. They still stabilize fuel, but when you get ethanol involved, that's when you have chances for more corrosion, more water absorption, and the gas going bad quicker. So ethanol treatments clean the fuel system, they remove water, they stabilize fuel, and they prevent corrosion.
So then, Matt, can additives be used in all fuel types?
Yeah, they can. I mean, gasoline is gasoline. It's just the knowledge base. So you asked if we need to use it in today's engines. Yeah, you do need to use it in today's engines. Gas still goes bad, and a lot of the newer engines have very tight tolerances. So needle valves, injectors, all those other things, they clog up easier. But all types of gas, and the big thing is to stabilize the gas when it's fresh. So the way I explain it to people is if you think you're going to have that gas for more than 30 days in the tank of your collector car, your boat, your 5-gallon gas can for your lawnmower, you should be putting some Stable in when you fill it up.
Well, Stable is a well-known brand from Gold Eagle. Before I let you go, name a few other products that Gold Eagle is known for.
Gold Eagle has 303 appearance products, which we sell into the automotive world and the marine world. We have heat gasoline antifreeze, which is people have used for all kinds of different things over the years, from small engine to automotive to marine. Octane 104 Octane Boost is one of our brands. It's the original Octane Boost. So we have a lot of brands in our house, but most people know Stable and 303 and Heat.
Oh, that 303 is a great product. I've actually used that, and Stable is in my collector car and also in the generator here at Car Clinic Radio Network, because we hopefully don't ever use the generator, but when a hurricane comes along or we lose the power, we don't have any option. It has to be ready, and of course it sits for the most part. And in Florida, we're in Pensacola, Florida, so it's a very humid area. So you've got a humid, hot area, and we've got 5 gallons of fuel, and we use Stable in it, and we've never had an issue with it firing up. We test it about once every Well, I was going to say month, but really, Matt, it's about every 2 months. I sure thank you for sharing the information about Gold Eagle and the products and Stable. It's a fantastic product. Where can listeners go, our Car Clinic listeners and viewers, for some more information about Stable products?
You can go to goldeagle.com. That's our website for all of our brands. You can check out other things. Or if you want to go directly to Stable, it's stable.com, sta-bil.com.
Got it. Well, it's a great time to talk with you. Summertime's hot and fuel can certainly degrade. Matt Manick, Senior Director of Marketing for Gold Eagle. Matt, thanks again for joining us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Have a great day.
Great, thank you.
And to that point, folks, I wanted to bring up, and I mentioned, as you heard to Matt, the fact that the fuel in my Porsche, which has Stable in it, is dangerously getting near the point that it's going to go bad now. And I'll tell you why. May of 18, I put 12 gallons and 12 and a half gallons. I document when I put gas in this vehicle. The challenge is I should keep, and here's the way you should store a car, 95% fill of the tank and then add Stable to the gas. And then you drive it around the block so that the stabilized gasoline that's all mixed, then it can go through the fuel lines and the injectors, and it's everywhere that fuel should be. And then you can park the car. And then lower the windows in the car, about 2 inches, cover the car, and that's the way you can, and then hook up the digital, the Optima Digital 400, and that's what I do to my car. Here's the challenge, and that's the right thing to do. But here's the challenge. I don't drive it, so the fuel is old. And the fuel only has X shelf life, as Matt said, 30 days. And here's why that 30-day figure is a fact. Really, fuel's good for 90 days. The problem is when they crack the fuel, they crack the crude and make the fuel, that starts its shelf life. Then it's got to go from the refinery into a truck, over the road to a service station, into the tank of the service station, and then in your car. Well, that could be 30 days before that happens. And then it could be in the tank of the service station for 25 or 30 days because they don't put a little bit in there. They put a lot in there. I don't know how many gallons, but thousands. And as a result, the gasoline, by the time you buy it, could have already been 45 days old. I see Joey's on the phone from New York. When I come back, could have come to him. And then your call is at 888 Car Clinic. Don't go away. Today's Repair Spotlight is for gasoline-powered engines with 60,000 plus miles. At this age and high mileage, vehicles can develop irritating small oil leaks that can make a mess and ultimately cause serious damage to engine and chassis components. The solution? Berryman's B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator. It's simple to use and safe for engine components like catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator cleans and protects the crankcase and engine oil system on all gas-powered vehicles, and conditions and revitalizes seals and gaskets to help stop oil leaks. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator contains zinc-based ZDDP and molybdenum moly to help fight friction, heat, and wear. It helps prevent sludge formation to maximize engine performance and life. Don't put up with those pesky oil leaks. Add some Berryman B60 to your motor oil and add another level of protection for your engine. Learn more about Berryman B60 and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation. And today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'd invite you to call at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. Joey from New York. Joey, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Bobby.
Hey, sir.
I have a 2004 GMC Sierra 1500 truck, and I started to get an engine check light and a message saying that it was a loose gas cap. Well, I read the code as P0455, which means a large vapor leak. Mm-hmm. So I bought a new cap, and it did the same thing.
Right.
So then I put the original cap on from when I bought the vehicle in 2003, and it did the same thing. In fact, at one point, I got a code of 449, which P0449, which means vent valve, canister vent valve leak.
Right.
So I had the ability to test either the purge or the vent valve, but not, of course, to do the smoke test. That would cost about $80 by a repair shop.
Right.
So what I'm looking for is to avoid a large amount of money by taking it into a repair shop. In your opinion, what steps should I take to, first of all, find the problem, and then just to do it myself at a minimum cost?
Well, that's not an easy answer because what you're looking for. Number one, we have a smoke machine that was expensive, not because we wanted it, because we had to have it to properly test the system. So what you might want to do, and we use that, but that doesn't find defective valves, or it finds a leak. I mean, sure, it finds the leak to atmosphere, but it doesn't find a defective valve. It could, but if that valve is leaking into the engine, it's not going to smoke. If it's leaking into the atmosphere, it will smoke. So we have to have the ability to then not only smoke test our emissions, this scenario, but we also have to have a very expensive scan tool. And to that end, I was, that reminds me of a short story, and I'll make it short. Recently, my wife had some surgery, and we went to the hospital, and she had 4 MRIs. And one of those MRIs, well, not one, several of them were scheduled through ER. Although she was at the doctor's office, they sent her down to the ER. The reason that they did this is because this hospital had one MRI machine. Now, I'm highly and sternly disappointed that a large hospital would have one MRI machine when we in the service industry, and I know they're expensive, but there's a backlog. And at one point in time, we went down to the ER at 9 o'clock and we left at 6:03 that evening. That's a fact. It was unacceptable. Now, having said that, what does that have to do with your issue? We have no less than 6 expensive scan tools, and these are $3,000 to $8,000 a piece. And we don't buy them because we want to spend $5,000 average to buy these 6 machines. We buy them because we have to have them. So the short answer to you is you're going to have to pay a shop to determine where the leak is. And if you want my best guess, it's probably a purge valve. But that purge valve could be replaceable, but it would also be part of the canister. And I'll give you an example, Joey. We had an 03 or 4 Thunderbird, and Ford Motor Company mounted a canister above the axle housing, the independent suspension. And Johnny Bars, our master ASE certified technician, lead technician, shop foreman, had to drop the axle housing to get to this darn unit. It's totally ridiculous that Ford Motor Company would have done that. So obviously the body guys and the fuel tank guys said, oh, this is a safe place to put this because safety is top of mind. And then the chassis guy says, well, hey, this is where we mount our suspension. So the short answer is, and what I recommend to you, and I know you don't want to do this, so you can start throwing parts if you like, but you call for my opinion, call a shop and ask them what they would charge you to perform a test. And don't use the word diagnostics, because Joey, diagnostics, and this is the biggest, it's almost like a fast in, fast out oil change, which I'm totally against, because when a vehicle has its oil and filter changed, that's the only time that the hood's been open in 5,000 miles. So you don't just open it to pour new oil in. You better inspect the vehicle while you got it on the rack and while you're under the hood. But I won't get into that except to say that if you're going to go across country and you don't have time to get your car properly inspected, which is a mistake, but things happen, then a quick fast in, fast out oil change is okay. Otherwise, it's not okay. And for all of the fast in, fast out lube guys, get with it. You're doing your folks a disservice, the public a disservice, car owners, by getting them in and out in a hurry, because you cannot possibly inspect what should be inspected every 5,000 miles. But back to your problem, and then I'll go on to other calls. But you're going to have to find a local service shop in New York and say, what will you charge me to run a smoke test and to use your scan tool to activate these solenoids to determine what's wrong with my automobile, or else you can throw parts. And if you put one part, it's $150, it doesn't fix it, then all you do, you've done 2 things. You may have complicated the real issue because you're disturbing hoses that have been there for, well, it's an 04 for a long time. And you see where I'm going here? So the answer to your story, it's not a black or white answer, and that's why I have to take time. Anyway, questions?
Sure. Okay. Well, I was thinking that if I at least test the purge valve and the vent valve, just because I can get to them.
Well, how can you test them?
At least that might eliminate.
How can you test them without disturbing a hose or a line?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, to my point,
right.
So you're gagging at gnats is what you're doing, and so from me to you, from a personal standpoint, find a shop, pay that shop to perform a test, and then hold them accountable. If and if the purge valve is bad, they can show you where the purge valve is leaking, and I suspect that it does. Now, there's one other thing that while you're at it, just for grins and just because you sound like you know a little bit about cars, you might want to look at the vacuum hoses and the positive crankcase ventilation hose on your GMC truck. On the left rear valve cover, the driver's side valve cover, there's a PCV hose, and that could be cracked. And just because you see a hose that's laying on top of an engine and it looks round and okay, reach under the belly of that hose, and like the belly of a snake, is different from the top of the snake. Sometimes hoses will curl up under, and there'll be a crack, and you say, well, I'll be darned. It looked perfectly okay, but when I touched it, it fell apart or something. So it's okay for you for things that you can see and inspect and feel and pinch and squeeze, do it. But for things that are hidden or behind other components, let the pros do it. You got it?
Right. I checked the lines coming from the canister, as far as I could go, and they look pretty good.
Yeah,
they look pretty good. But I didn't check that line.
Okay.
Line that you said.
Yeah. Well, check those things, and then check what you can check, but don't do anything. Don't start the process of parts replacement and then go to a shop, because you could inadvertently add multiplicity of problems to the vehicle, and I won't go into a long story, but it could, because it just happened this week where a man calls and said, my car won't start. Well, he'd already had his mechanic, which was the next door neighbor, so he's not a technician, he's a mechanic, replace the starter, and I'll be darned, you know what his next step was? It still didn't start, so he puts an ignition switch in it. And he's calling me to ask me what it's going to take in money to fix his car. How would I know? I never saw his car, and yet that's the mentality. And so it's interesting to me, because on Saturday I wear your shoes, and then during the week I wear the shop owner's shoes. And so I'm in a cat's bird seat, and so I'm here to help you know when to hold them and when to fold them. And in this case, it's a lot simpler to let the pros at least perform the check, and because you can get a price on that. I'm not saying take your car in and have the keys and a blank check. By no means do that. But have an agreement to start with. What will you charge me to check the emissions, include a smoke test and checking the purge vent solenoids? And they're going to know by that you're no dummy, that you have some car smarts, and they're going to say, oh, hey, this is great. He knows the process. So use our conversation to better communicate with your local service shop, and you'll be ahead of the game.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Bobby.
You're welcome, Joy. Thank you for your confidence in me. Let's go to Scott. Scott, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, Bobby, how you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How you doing there in Arkansas?
Doing good.
What can I do for you?
I've got a 2004 Honda Civic EX, and I had check engine light come on. I run the codes, and I had a O2 sensor on a downstream go bad.
Okay.
And so I replaced it with the Bosch from O'Reilly's, and then I started up, ran it, still had a check engine light. So I checked the code again. Now both of them are showing need to replace both of them. And so I looked at the fuse, and the fuse is good, so I'm not sure what would be throwing the code on both of those.
Well, whatever caused the first one to go bad, and you said it was bad, how do you know it was bad?
I'm just going by what the
code
check engine light.
Okay.
Yeah, what the code was saying. I need to replace the downstream one.
I want to share with you and everyone that's tuned in, when a code reader, which can cost as little as a phone app or $35, when a code reader finds a code for whatever widget it is, it doesn't mean that widget is bad. It means that widget is having issues and not operating within its parameters, and it could be caused by something else. And I'll give an example, and this is typical for Lexus. Lexus and all cars have a little the catalytic converter is mounted to the exhaust system, and it goes to the exhaust manifold of the vehicle. Well, there's a flex there, a flex joint, so the engine can move around, because the engine moves around, but the exhaust system is bolted to the car, so it can't be solid, because you'd feel it and it'd vibrate. So they use a stainless steel shielded flex hose exhaust pipe or tailpipe, not tailpipe, connector pipe. Yeah, okay. And those connector pipes, and it's like a Chinese puzzle. You know, Scott, when I say that, the outer webbing, like shielded high performance fuel line, is a stainless steel webbing that has weaved, is woven. You got me?
Yeah.
Well, a pinhole, well, not a pinhole, the size of a push button ballpoint pen, which is not much of a hole, will cause a check engine light to come on, and it will show an oxygen sensor as bad, because the O2 sensor sees more oxygen because there's a leak in the exhaust system. And I've seen this. We've happened it time and time again on Lexus, especially, And so rather than replace the pipe, which is expensive, we'll take the exhaust pipe off and we'll weld up that hole and put it back on and reset the curve. I said all that to say this. A reader will only say this O2 sensor is on. It's like you and I having a cup of coffee, look across the street, there's a house on fire. All we know is the house is on fire. But the first responders have to know where the fire started. So our scan tool in a professional operation can get into the house, into the architecture of the car, and determine if that sensor is doing its job, and we can activate different solenoids. And that's the difference between reading a code from an outside source or having a professional scan tool that gets into the burning house, into the architecture of the. So my advice to you, and let me give you a website. So they're in Arkansas, anywhere in the world, folks, or in the states, asashop.org. I'm a member of the Automotive Service Association. It's like the AMA, it's the medical association. And as a result, from anywhere, you just go online and go to asashop.org and then put in your zip code, and within 5 or 6 miles, you determine, you'll see a half dozen shops. And then you can determine and call which one's convenient for you and talk with them and say, what will you charge me to run a test on my code? Do not don't replace that other O2 sensor. You need to have that professionally tested so you can determine what's causing that issue, because you inadvertently have now created a secondary problem. And ironically, if you listen to the conversation I just had with the gentleman about his evap system in New York, this is exactly why you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them.
I'll agree.
So anyway, So anyway, thanks for your call. Thanks for your confidence in me. And folks, that's all the time that we have for this hour. I know that Tom from Missouri and Joseph from Florida here are in the queue. So we do have another hour coming up. And so I'd like for you to stick around. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is here every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time at Watch Bobby Live or on your local AM and FM station. So in about 6 minutes, I'll be back. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Stick around.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, you never want to get surprised by a dead battery. A vehicle's original battery generally lasts about 3 to 5 years, but many fail long before then. Next time you're in for an oil service, have the technician test your battery. Better now than too late. Today's vehicles have start-stop systems, navigation, radio amplifiers, electric fuel pumps, 25 or more onboard computer modules, and serious electronic controls that depend on a strong, fully charged battery. Make sure the car you're driving has a healthy battery. Make yourself a note. Go to autobatteries.com and see for yourself how a battery can keep you safely driving down the road or put you on the side, just like that. At autobatteries.com, you'll see battery technology, battery testing, how to choose the battery, how to jumpstart your battery, and more about AGM batteries, my choice. I'm not here to make you a battery expert, rather to help you better understand why a reliable battery is essential for your road trips. Go to autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition Le Mans. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And I want to welcome you to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. The first hour kind of got away from us because we ran out of time, and toward the end of the program there, the phones jammed up. So let's get started earlier this hour. 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your call now at 888-227-2546. We have Tom, who's patiently waiting. So after the hard break that we're coming up in the next couple of minutes, we're going to come to Tom there in Missouri, and then we're going to go to Joseph, who has a Lincoln with a battery light problem. So interesting stuff. And what's really neat about this program is that you can listen to other callers, and if you have a situation similar, then you can apply my answer to their question to your question, or not. But it's easy to call at 888 Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you this morning by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats, closure caps, and engine management. Learn more about all the Motorrad products and the industry-leading application coverage. Industry-leading. These folks know about applications. They know about thermostats. They know about radiator caps, and they know about engine management systems like O2 sensors and variable cam timing phasers, we call them. Where? Motorrad.com. Check it out. Motorrad, MOTORAD.com. Your calls at 888 Car Clinic. When I come back, don't touch that dial. We're going to rock and roll. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A, brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature, in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element Ultrastat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time. The Ultrastat also features bilinear valve technology, which prevents thermal shock to cooling system components, gradually increasing coolant flow versus instant maximum flow found in traditional thermostats. The Ultrastat precisely controls engine temperature to ensure the lowest emission standards, maximum fuel efficiency, and terrific interior cabin comfort. The Motorrad Ultrastat line is the perfect thermostat upgrade option with coverage for over 160 million vehicles on the road today. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. We recently had an 09 Honda Pilot come into the shop with 169,000 miles on the odometer. The vehicle owner said the cabin was starting to smell like coolant, and he was concerned. Upon closer inspection, we found a heater core leak. Choices were to keep the vehicle and make a repair, which at best is half a day's labor plus parts, or sell the vehicle and buy a different used car that could have its own set of problems. We presented a third option, K-Seal. You've heard me talk about K-Seal before. Well, I don't just talk about it, we actually use the product in our service shop. It's a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Other sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Our customer went with K-Seal, and 1 month later, no more leak. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at lendingtree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And I want to welcome you back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you by partners at the Car Care Council. It's back to school time, folks, and the perfect opportunity for drivers, that would be you, or your kids going to school, to make sure vehicles are kid safe and road ready. Visit carcare.org. That's carcare.org for a number of fantastic tools, including tips and service schedules and videos and more. And a little bit later in the program, I'm going to share with you the 3 steps that you should consider before sending your car away to college and your kid in the car. Let's go to Tom with Missouri, who's waited for a while. Tom, thank you for your patience. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. What can I do for you?
Well, I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
They shouldn't take too long. I have a friend who's got a '08 Mercury Montero. And he had a problem with an antifreeze leak in it that just kind of confused me, and I was wanting some kind of clarity on this. He said it was coming from his intake manifold on a hose that had been capped off, and it's always been capped off. But he said it was plastic.
Right.
Do they make an intake manifold that's plastic?
Yeah. They've done that for years. In fact, they're almost universally plastic. In fact,
what?
Well, it's plastic. It's polycarbonate, but so it is plastic, and it's made to withstand high temperature. It's lighter because see every part about just think about it. Think about a bridge and how much a bridge would weigh. Think about San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge and how much that could weigh. And what if you could build that bridge not out of steel but out of aluminum? Not that it matters because it's hooked to the earth and it's anchored on both sides and supported. But then now think about a car. Here's a better example than that. Ford in 2017 went from a steel body to an aluminum body and saved 732 pounds. So that's like taking a 2016 Ford compared to 2017 when it went from steel to aluminum, and removing the engine and the transmission. The weight of the engine and transmission, what is that? Instant miles per gallon. So that's what manufacturers have done to lighten up. And also, I'm sure there's the cost savings that when you can extrude aluminum versus mold plastic. And so, the answer is definitely manifolds or plastic. My car is a 5-liter Jaguar, and it has an intake manifold plastic. All the cars have. But what's your question?
Well, I just I didn't know they ran antifreeze through a plastic intake.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he's talking about an air plenum or something. But...
Yeah, no. Well, see, now to that end, Tom, and depending on what year his Ford product is, and this is an interesting too. I'm glad you called. Ford Motor Company made the intake plastic. There's a thermostat crossover. You got your right cylinder head.
Sure.
And you got your left cylinder head on a V8, right?
Right.
Well, the thermostat is in the middle of the two, so you got to get the hot water, the hottest water, which comes out of the top of the engine, to the thermostat, and then from there into the radiator. So what Ford did was they put it's called a crossover. They made that crossover out of plastic. The problem was, over time, it got so hot, so cold, so hot, the expansion contraction cracked the plastic, and Ford Motor Company had multiple intake manifolds that would leak, and it looked like water was coming out of the alternator because the alternator is right dead center of the manifold, and the crack would be right behind there. But guess what? The replacement manifold is plastic, but the crossover part is aluminum.
Oh, okay.
So and we, you know, you hear me talking about aftermarket parts here, like O'Reilly Auto Parts and Dorman. Dorman's a great company that they make a lot of. Dorman focuses on the failing parts. I mean, in addition to regular parts that fail, wearables like brake pads and what have you. Dorman is a company that I respect, and they're not partners, but I use them in my business. Dorman makes repair updated parts for cars that save our owners from having to buy whole assemblies. And a good example would be like there are motors that operate doors inside a plastic chamber, so you can have a small vent or an open vent inside the chamber, and it's all to do with low speed torque and high speed.
Sure.
And so Dorman makes, and the linkage brakes. Well, if you got a Mercedes and the linkage brakes on the plenum actuator, you got to buy the whole thing. But Dorman makes an actuator with arms. You can fix the intake manifold without having to buy you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, is what my Diane says all the time. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm amazed myself. And recently, I had the opportunity. I met a gentleman who works for a company, and it starts with an A, and they bought Monsanto, Absinthe, and gosh, I can't think of the name of the company, but we'll look that up. Look it up for me, Jonathan. Ascend, yes. They make, and I challenged him. I said, well, what about these manifolds that crack? He said, Bobby, those things are tested. They can run 600, 700 degrees and 10 degrees below zero. It doesn't matter. You know, they're making. Now, I'm not saying I agree with what he said, because, you know, my answer was, well, give me the line of cars that you make plastic for. He said, we make plastic for all the OEMs. That's one of our biggest parts of our business. And that company, yeah, it is. It's really interesting stuff. Anyway, I got other calls. I got to go, but it is very interesting. What other question you have?
Okay, this is. I'll just hang up after this and let you talk about it. But the guest you had on from Stable,
yes,
he mentioned a couple of times about ethanol causing rust or attracting water,
right.
Or, you know, he said it attracts water. He says it causes rust in your buckets and in your fuel system. And, you know, I know your feelings about ethanol, and I always thought that, well, I take after, you know, I listen to what you say, and I know it absorbs, you know, it holds more water, but, you know, he said it attracts water. So I just thought you might want to talk about that a little bit and let us hear what you think about what he said, you know, compared to how you feel about ethanol.
Well, it seems to be the industry, the chemical providers, and there are many chemical providers. I mean, one of our chemical provider partners is Berryman, and they make great products. I don't know if they make an ethanol treatment product, but I know that Gold Eagle does. But ethanol does not attract water. It doesn't have, so the wording is improper. I don't think he really meant that it reaches out into the atmosphere and pulls water in. Ethanol.
Well, I was hoping not, but that's what it sounded like.
Well, I agree with you, and to that end, I guess it's the gentlemanly side of me that didn't challenge this person on the air, because I do disagree with that statement, because I know the facts of that statement. So
yeah, you couldn't do that. I know that. But
yeah, I wouldn't do that. But the bottom line, here's what does happen. So I can answer your question while I've got you on the air. Ethanol suspends its alcohol, and alcohol and water mix. So you emulsify whatever condensation's in the tank, and then it harmlessly goes through the fuel system and vaporizes in the combustion chamber. And to that end, I've got an 80 model Porsche just outside my door that has gas that I put in May of 2018. I've got records, and it has 10% E10 in that 80 model car, and it also has Stable, which is Gold Eagle's brand, fuel in it to stabilize the fuel, because the same methodology and steps that you would take to stabilize straight gasoline are the same steps you would take to stabilize E10, but that's a separate issue, and that's a separate product. So I thank you for bringing that up. Don't think I wasn't, in the back of my mind.
I knew you were listening.
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, I thank you so much for that. Thanks for bringing that to everyone's attention.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you. Now, there's a listener, a knowledgeable listener. Well, that's really great. What I meant to tell him was about his friend that had the Ford product, and that when he bought the new manifold to put it on, to go to FordParts.com and check around, because the replacement intake manifold from FordParts.com is going to have the aluminum counterpart and the plastic or composite is what they call it, intake plenum part, so it gets the best of both worlds. I'll come back. We have David from California and Joseph from Florida with their calls. 888 Car Clinic. Don't go away, folks. Really interesting show today. In the service bay this week, a longtime customer's 2000 Ford Taurus. He'd been complaining about a humming noise at highway speeds and grinding when he stopped. With 55,000 miles on the odometer, the driver's had the vehicle since new and never had any work done. No brakes, no suspension. A thorough inspection revealed a number of potential problems: a failing left front wheel bearing, worn-out rear brake pads and rotors, and the beginnings of a leaking brake caliper. Our choice to solve these problems? Motorcraft. Brake systems and suspension repair represent serious work you want done right the first time. Choosing quality parts is critical to ensuring vehicle reliability and longevity. Motorcraft quality brake and suspension parts are engineered for Ford and Lincoln vehicles. From the hub to the rotor, calipers, brake pads, and wheel bearings, Motorcraft quality parts provide you with the stopping power and stability needed for your vehicle. Learn more about Motorcraft brake and suspension parts at Motorcraft.com. That's Motorcraft.com. Motorcraft, right part, priced right. We recently performed a major service on a 1996 F-150. The vehicle had just under 200,000 miles on it. In addition to fluids and filters, we changed the spark plugs and boots, performed a cooling system flush, and replaced the thermostat, hoses, and drive belts. After a few weeks, the owner noticed a small leak coming from the area where the transmission bolted onto the block. Using a pressure tester, we found that coolant was seeping from one of the freeze plugs at the rear of the engine. This repair would require several hours of labor and another few days or so in the shop. Given the truck's age and the fact it was just in the shop for service, we suggested K-Seal, a one-step permanent multi-purpose system for coolant leak repair that won't clog radiators or heater cores. K-Seal stops leaks and can also prevent future leaks. After driving the truck for a week, the owner called and let us know the leak had stopped. K-Seal is available at fine retailers everywhere, like Napa Auto Parts. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance. When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And I want to welcome you back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. What an interesting program today. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Berryman Products. Another partner of ours, if your vehicle is a little sluggish or maybe you're experiencing poor fuel economy, you can try Berryman B12 Chem Tool, which features Berryman's HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology. Berryman B12 Chem Tool will clean your fuel system, and that can result in higher compression, fewer repairs, lower operating costs. That's a good thing. And you can learn more at berrymanproducts.com. Berryman Products, and a quick story, years ago, 30 years ago, when I first learned about Berryman Products, or maybe it was longer than that, I've been in business 48 years, Berryman Products made a transmission additive that was the only additive that OEMs, and it was Chrysler, that says, use this product. Because OEMs will tell you, don't use additives. But then OEMs will say in the next page after they tell you that, unless you use our additive, and they don't make additives. True story, on my Viper, it says don't use fuel additives. Well, what do you mean? I don't drive it much. I use stable in it, to stabilize the gas, because I don't drive the vehicle much, and they say, well, don't use additives. But if you do, use a Dodge additive. And you think Dodge makes additive, folks? Not. Okay, let's go to Joseph, who's patiently waiting. So, Joseph, thank you for waiting. It's your turn. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir.
Bobby, I got a problem that's driving me crazy. I called you once before about it. I got a Lincoln Town Car, and the battery light's on. And as soon as it went on, I went to O'Reilly, got it checked.
Right.
And they said, well, your battery's a little weak. So I said, well, let's not play around with it. Let's put a new battery in.
Okay.
Put the new battery in, left the store. This was about a year and a half ago, okay?
Right.
Left the store, battery light wasn't on, came home, parked the car in my driveway, got in it the next day, battery light was on. Brought it back, looking at it, checked it out, plugged it in under the dashboard there where to check the computer. No faults, no nothing, everything's good. I drive it for maybe from here to maybe I drive it 10 miles, 5 or 6 miles, park the car, the battery light is on, get back into the car, the battery light is off when I'm driving the car. Okay, you told me to look for a wire going from, I think it was my negative to the firewall, and it was screwed into that firewall.
Into the block.
Clean it up.
Into the engine block.
Into the engine block,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
and clean it up.
The front of the ground, the main ground cable, because I've had problems with it's a Ford product, right? Yeah. I've had problems with that. And I specifically, we had a car that had a voltage drop, and the car wouldn't start. It wouldn't start occasionally. And before we put a starter on it, which is the first thing, that I want to start, put a starter on it. Well, really? So we checked battery voltage to make sure it wasn't the battery, and the battery had 12.2 volts, and, with the car shut off, 11.9, somewhere in that neighborhood. But we went over and checked it at the starter, and it showed 8 volts or 5 volts. What? What do you mean? Here's the battery that's 2 feet from the engine that we had the same meter hooked to that, and we got 12 volts, and then at the engine block. So what had happened is the battery ground cable where it bolts onto the engine block that was tight, I mean, it was been there since new, had corroded between the cable terminal and the battery head, and we just unscrewed it and wire brushed it and put it back in, put a little grease on it to seal out the elements. I like to use lithium grease.
Like lithium.
Yeah. I think that stuff's great for everything. I use it at home too. Anyway, and we cured that vehicle, and I'll never forget that. And then, lo and behold, there's a technical service bulletin about that out. But anyway, back to your problem. That's what I was referring to a year and a half ago, or whenever we talked.
Well, no, we talked about, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, after a while, I said, well, that's it, I'm driving it. I took a 1,300-mile round trip to Asheville, North Carolina from Daytona.
Right.
Came home.
Right.
I've been driving it. Everything's fine. The car doesn't quit on me, and the light's on, and then it goes off after I park and start it again. The light's off.
Right.
So I'm saying, well, something's weird here. So when it breaks down, then they'll find out what's wrong with it.
I'm with you. So where are you now? Is it still erratically operating?
Yeah. I mean, if I go out, I haven't been in a car today yet.
Yeah.
If I go out now, I'll start the car up and the light will be on. I'll go from here to, let's say, Walmart, which is 3 miles, 4 miles.
Okay.
I'll go in Walmart, come out, start the car up, the light's fine. It won't go on for the rest of the day until I park it, for a while like overnight in my carport, and then it goes on. But like I say, I've done long trips with it. It's been that long. The light's been on. So maybe if it blows out, I'd be lucky. I don't know.
So David, yeah, if the light blows out, you won't be lucky because it'll cause other problems. But so yeah, they won't. The OEMs and the computers even know what kind of filament's in the bulb. So if you put the wrong filament, like in a tail light, you put the wrong filament. And a quick story, years ago, Jaguar. This is in the early days when Ford owned Jag. They didn't do a good job there. When you replace, a customer would come in with a brake light out, and then the dash would say, light out. And so we would go into our stock, and we've got regular bulbs, and O'Reilly Auto Parts is right down the street, so we buy our package of bulbs and put them in there. Well, the brake light would still be on. Well, what is this? The brake light's working now. Well, ultimately, we would have to buy a Jaguar brake light bulb for like $5 or $10 instead of $2 because the ohms resistance, that car was tuned, the electrical system was tuned to recognize a specific ohms resistance that was different from the aftermarket. And different from every car too, and so, or else, and that I know that to be a fact because I actually had to do that. So that's anyway. But back to your dash light, and back to my question of you: did you ever clean that negative terminal on the head?
Yeah, that's
okay,
right. Then
okay,
I called. That's what I called. I cleaned that, put white lithium grease on it.
Yeah, good. And that made no difference, right? But
no,
okay.
Nothing at all.
Well, here's what I believe. I believe that you could have a cluster connection or a loom. Ohms resistance is a huge segment of the voltage that is used in today's cars, and by that I mean this. We're only using like 5 volts to trigger the body control module. There's 12 volts going to it, but the signals between the power windows and the seats and the entertainment controls and what have you is only 5 volts. So, and the resistance in the wire, if you have a bad ground, the computer will see that and it will cause issues. So what you're experiencing here is there in your car, more than likely, there's a bad ground somewhere. Well, to find that somewhere, and that's why I gave you the single biggest bang for the buck, the ground, because the car will crank and run. But to make that light go out, no telling how much time it would take in research and development, not R&D, but research and testing, to determine. So I'm with you to, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as long as you know what that light is. The challenge with that is, it's okay because it's the battery light. And so I go along with you, but if it were the check engine light, I would say you got to fix it because there's too many things that are connected to the check engine light, and you could have something that would cause a problem, a serious problem. But I believe that you've got a bad ground somewhere, and I'll tell you, it might be that you have a body control module, and a body control module depends on perfectly clean connectors. And then one more point, then I'll let you go, David. Here's interesting. Cars are so finicky, electrical systems, that if you went under the hood and you took a pin, like you sew with, a needle, and you pierced a wire, that feeds the computer, the insulation of the wire. Now, all you're doing is going through the insulation and into the strands of wire and then pull the needle out. So you haven't done anything except expose that segment of wire to the atmosphere. In due course, the oxidation will cause ohms resistance, and it will cause an issue in the computer because that computer is getting an erroneous signal. Is that cool, or is that strange, or is that's just how finicky? Yeah, and that's what
gremlins around.
Yeah, the gremlins, glitches. We call it glitch.
Yeah. I got a quick one for you.
Okay, all right, sure.
My check engine light went on when I took this trip, a year and a half or so ago. Check engine light went on. I heard somewhere, and I forgot where I heard it, take your ground off your battery, wait a couple of minutes, put it back on, the check engine light will go out. It went out, and it's never been back on again. Now, is that weird, or is that usually what you do?
What year car?
98 town car.
Well, yeah, that's weird, but it rebooted. What happened is you rebooted the whole system. You rebooted the ECM, which is electronic control module. You also rebooted the body control module, and it's worth it. It's worth a try. Now, from 96 forward, when we have OBD2, onboard diagnostics, second generation, if you have a check engine light, that won't clear the code. But I will say this: what you could have done was just drive the car, and by turning it off and on, whatever caused the light to come on that went away would have eventually cleared the light itself. The code is still there, and if you've never disconnected, if you've never had anybody clear the code in that car, that code is still there to this day. Anyway, you got it?
Okay.
Hey, thanks for your call. Always good to hear from you.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. I see that David from California is on the line. We're going to go to David after the break. I want to share with you, we had a caller earlier that had an issue with a Ford, and we are partnered with Ford, FordParts.com. I mentioned this earlier in the program, but there's free FedEx ground shipping to all 50 states on qualifying purchases of $75 or more. This is before tax on FordParts.com. Find it, buy it, and get back to work. How cool is that? It works for us. And by the way, we are a member of the Ford Professional Service Network, which means that we have OEM capability and parts. And I have your calls when I come back. Folks, recently a 99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Time to call, time to get your calls in. Hannah will take your call at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546, and put you in the queue, and I'll put you on the air. Let's go to California. David, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning from the left coast.
Good morning, sir. How you doing out in the left coast?
I'm doing better than I deserve.
Well, that's great. That's
great. The question is, I spoke to you last week about my driving positions on my 18 Ford F-150, and you said you would look into it this week and see if you could find anything out.
I did. Recall, I did. I sent a note to the executives at Superchips to determine, and folks, what this call is about is that David has an 18 Ford, and you have to push the button on the gear shift. How many times? 4 times, David?
5 times. There's 5 positions.
Yeah,
normal, tow haul, snow wet, echo, and sport.
Right. And what's your, so what do you want, sport?
I want echo all the time because I'm driving for economy the most of the time. You know, it never snows here. I don't have to worry about hauling, and sport's not something I'm interested in either.
No, I got you.
But I'd like the default position to be echo. Economy.
Yeah, I got you. And for some strange reason, and this is a manufacturer's choice, they have decided that it defaults to whatever it defaults to, and it doesn't. It's normal. Okay, it defaults to normal. And they do that, I'm sure, for engineering reasons. And I'll give you an example, a quick example. My car, my Jag, defaults to start-stop. And I do not like start-stop because I'm a left-foot, right-foot driver. And as a result, every time I get in my car, I have to push the default button and turn that off. BMW had so many complaints that they changed the software to leave the system the way the driver said it the last time. Now, with regard to some safety issues, you know, if you want to turn off the traction control, you can hold the button on my car, I can hold it for 10 seconds, and it will defeat the traction control. Like if I wanted to do burnouts or what have you, which is ridiculous, but it's the luxury car. But if I wanted to do that, I could do that. However, every time I start the car, it defaults to the safety side. But I don't see where normal for your transmission would be considered the safety issue. And so I disagree. And so I don't have the answer to your question because I'm waiting on Superchips engineer to get back to me, and I haven't forgotten you on that. And folks, what he's talking about, Superchips has the tuner, the F5, that is really a cool device, and it tunes the engine and get better horsepower and better gas mileage and all that. And the reason that I promote those products is because I use those products, and because every car delivered from every manufacturer in the world is detuned. Your car, I don't care what you drive, and to that end, Corvette, the new 2020 Corvette, which I'm not a Corvette guy. I've said that many years. I love that new mid-engine Corvette. In fact, I liked its predecessor the first time I flipped. but they've encoded and encrypted their computer so that super chips can't get in there and tune it. But I guarantee you, you wait 6 months, and super chip's going to go in there and figure out how to bypass that. Because what is it in college when they hire young people, they teach them how to hack systems. I know that for a fact, Jonathan. You know that they teach them how to hack systems so they can learn how to defend hackers because they're hacking systems. So anyway, I don't have an update for you, but I have not forgotten you, and I've got you. Your that email. In fact, Jonathan sent me a note 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks, whenever you called, and I still have that on my computer, and I'm waiting on Super Chips for an answer right now.
Can you tell me what the approximate cost is on a super chip?
$400.
Okay. I have another question about the same truck.
But I don't know. I don't know that. I know that you can adjust the shift points. I know that that's part of it, and I know that you can adjust for different gear ratios and different tires. But I don't know that when you turn the key off, if your car is not going to go back to its default. And so before you would buy one, based on our conversation, I want to make for sure. Now, if it defaults to normal, I wouldn't want you to be upset with me that you spent $400, even if you got better gas mileage and better horsepower, which if I had your truck, I would no doubt have that system on it because I know it works. But anyway, what's your second question?
On the same vehicle, I had to replace the rear bumper because I dented it.
Okay.
And it comes in 2 pieces, but you have to buy the whole bumper. So I did find a left side bumper at a Ford dealership in Ohio over eBay, and I bought it.
Okay.
And I had to take the whole bumper off to replace it. When I did, put it all back together, I'm looking at the 2 pieces. The one that I bought was not stamped Ford Motor Company. You think I've got a knockoff from China or something?
Well, let me. The one that you have, the one that came on the card, did it have Ford Motor Company?
Yes.
And the one that you bought off eBay did not?
That's correct.
Well, it's not an OEM part then. I'll be darned.
That's what I'm afraid of. Okay.
Well, let me ask a question. Did it mount up and the holes drill precisely? I mean, did it like a plug and play, except for the fact that you got to loosen all the bolts and those sorts of things? Did it work well?
Yeah, everything went together fine.
Yeah.
Just that the stamp is not there, and I thought I hope someday down the road I don't find a rusty bumper. And my right bumper is looking still tiny.
Yeah, you got to come out and that rear bumper's going to have the Chinese drool on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. So, it's on there now.
Well, let me ask you a question. How much money did you save, or did you shop the Ford part?
Yeah, it was like $450 to buy it from the dealership, and I spent $150 on the one that's bolted right up.
Well, in your case, you can buy 3 of those. So if it does rust in 5 years, you're still 15 years before you're even in that case. Now, let me just say this. I agree with what you did. And I just bought a part off eBay. I just didn't buy a part off eBay. I bought one part off eBay for my classic Porsche, which is a shift a coupler. But I looked at the seller and the ratings, and he had like a 98.8% of 4,000 buys. So I'm pretty sure this is a reputable company because I do not care for eBay. I had a bad experience one time, and that ruined me for 10 years. But anyway, on the other hand, I'm driving a 2018 Lexus LS 500 today that belongs to a customer of mine because he curbed a wheel, and the wheel is $1,200. Beautiful black chrome wheel, and you can't repair those because they're black chrome. And it's really a strange looking wheel, beautiful. But I found one on eBay for $500. He did too, except it was used, and I looked closely at the picture and I could see the same curbing on that wheel. So I said, I'm not going to do this. And so I sent a note to him, who's a friend of mine, and I said, okay, Neil, what do you want to do here? It's either $1,200 installed or $500 plus the installation for the eBay that you can buy. He said, it's an expensive lesson learned. Get the new wheel. And I've got the new wheel in a box just outside, and I'm driving his car as we speak this weekend because my car's in the shop. But that's another story as well. Anyway, so David, I'll get back to you on the other question, but let me finish by saying, with regard to the a fender or door or well, I wouldn't buy an aftermarket door. I would not do that. And I'm not sure I'd buy an aftermarket bumper, but now that you've already got it and it looks good and you spent $150 versus $450, I'd say you did okay. But if it was electronics, I would say do not do that. Get the factory OEM part. Got it?
I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for calling. 888-227-2546 is the number for you to call. What an interesting concept. You know, we've had some ups and downs today, or some sideways. You know, we've had some interesting interactions. So I want to share with you some bad news. Somebody backed into my car 2 weeks ago. I was backing out of McDonald's, and there was no one behind me, and I looked, and I was very cautious about my car. In fact, I parked it next to a handicap so that I'd be assured, more or less, that at least one side was protected, because the chances of the handicap being, you know, someone driving up in the handicap while I was in there getting a sandwich and a cup of coffee one morning, you know, chances are nobody would. So I'm very protective of my car. So I backed my car out, no issue, put it in drive, and pulled off. And as I pulled off, bam! This person backed the Ford pickup truck from the other side of the McDonald's parking lot into my right rear door of my car. Now, folks, I'm anal about that car. I'm the only person that's ever washed it, and there's not a door ding anywhere on that automobile, because I'll park it a block away. And so now it's in the body shop, and I ordered a new door, and the insurance company didn't quibble about that. It's an aluminum vehicle. Luckily, it didn't do any structural damage. But here's my real upset. Number one, that person did not have any insurance. Number two, now there's a Carfax crash, because I called the police report, even though they don't give tickets in parking lots, by the way. They give tickets on the highway or the streets, but not in the parking lots. So she didn't get a ticket, but it was obvious that she backed into it. It was her fault, but she's driving her boyfriend's car, and the insurance had lapsed. So that's so now. I say this because it's discouraging. And so when you call me and I say I've been there, done that, I understand. Now my car has a diminished value because it's a Carfax report saying it's had a crash. It wasn't a crash, although she backed her bumper into my door, and a bumper is a hell of a lot more structurally rigid than the center sweet spot of a door. Luckily, it didn't hit the door post, and it didn't hit the rear of the car. It hit the door, but nonetheless, my concern is to get for the body shop to get my leather wood door panel off and back on the other door, and all the innards as factory, and that's going to be a challenge. And I'm using a shop that I've known for 50 years, West Florida Paint and Body, the best, and I challenged them to make sure that I couldn't tell they'd replace the door. So, you know, in a case like that, it can be discouraging, but a door can be fixed, and it's not, you know, a human being. But let's talk about human beings, and let's talk about cars. I mentioned earlier the 3 steps for sending your car away to college. So this is from the Car Care Council, our partners. So if you're seeing your child off to college, and you know, it's going to be an emotional transition, especially if they're going far from home. So according to the Car Care Council, quote, a little advanced planning and a well-maintained vehicle can offer peace of mind to parents. I agree 100%. Now, so number one,
And this is important, folks. I want you to do this, and it's timely because school starts. Get a send-off vehicle inspection. College is a busy time for students, and if you think they're going to worry about your car, that's wrong. That's not top of mind at all. Be sure to schedule a thorough vehicle inspection before you pack the car for school. Number 2, making an emergency plan. Discuss a plan with your child in case they're experiencing a roadside emergency, and be sure they know who to contact for roadside assistance, and stock the car with easy emergency kit, jumper cables, emergency flares, a flashlight, and blankets. Just make a little kit. Say, here's your going away present. Put it in the back of the car. Remember, it's there. And hopefully they won't have to use it, but if they do, you can thank me and the Car Care Council. Number 3, stay on schedule. To stay on top of routine vehicle maintenance, you can sign up for the Council's free custom service schedule. I have it on my car, and receive email service reminders and recall notices as well. And you can encourage your kid to review the Car Care Council's online car care guide along with the vehicle owner's manual. Bottom line, go to carcare.org, put your VIN number in and the mileage of the car, and that's all you have to do in your email, and bam, you get notices and updates right away. How cool is that? I'm proud to be partnered with the Car Care Council. They're a non-for-profit organization. They are an integral part, and I believe one of the strongest consumer-oriented car care organizations on the planet. Car Care Council, carcare.org. And folks, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. So remember, if you're like Joseph in Florida, who called earlier, or David in California, who I just hung up with, and you drive a Ford, remember Motorcraft parts. Their original equipment approved specifications. Take a quick tour at motorcraft.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. See you next week.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Give your vehicle tires a deep shine that lasts. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and see our selection of Meguiar's spray-on tire coatings. Your choice, $5.99 each. Clean, shine, and protect with Meguiar's tire coatings on sale now at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
If you're working on a repair project around the house or in the garage, forget about ordinary glue. I use JB Weld epoxy products at home, here in my shop, and also in our Car Clinic studio. JB Weld is the brand pros and DIYers have trusted for more than 50 years. JB Weld, world's strongest bond. Pick up your JB Weld at any Home Depot, Lowe's, AutoZone, Walmart, Amazon, and our partner, O'Reilly Auto Parts. For more details, log on to jbweld.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle loaded or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown, now you're here.